Hi, I'm Parker Stevenson, and I'm the next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
This is episode 768 of On Screen and Beyond. Thanks for joining us once again. And On Screen and Beyond is the show that brings you an interview with a guest from the movie, TV, or music industry each week. This week, Parker Stevenson of the Hardy Boys and Baywatch fame returns to talk about his career and his upcoming performance at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California on March 7th, live on stage in the play Love Letters. And he was here last year with co-star, and he was there too at the Orinda, and he performed with Joyce DeWitt in that play. But this year, his co-star will be Pamela Sue Martin of the Nancy Drew Mysteries, which back in the late 70s ran alternatively back and forth with Parker's Hardy Boys. It's going to be a great time, so be sure to check it out. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and if you are new to the show, thank you for joining us, watching or listening. And if you're not, and you've been watching and listening to all of our past episodes over the years, we've had some incredible guests, and I hope you're checking them all out. And I do suggest that you check them out either by watching them on Spotify and YouTube or listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Podbeam, or wherever you get your podcasts. It doesn't matter. We're on almost everything as far as I know. And if you wish to contact me to suggest something or for a guest or whatever, you can send me an email at feedback@onscreenandbeyond.com. And what do you say? Let's do it. Parker Stevenson next, right here on Screen and Beyond. Today, our guest returns to On Screen and Beyond and has been seen on The Love Boat, Falcon Crest, North and South Book 2, Love and War, Melrose Place, Baywatch, Greenhouse Academy, and of course, as Frank Hardy on the 70s show, The Hardy Boys. On March 7th, he will be returning to the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California, to once again perform live on stage in Love Letters, this time with Pamela Sue Martin. It's Parker Stevenson. Parker, welcome back to On Screen and Beyond.
Thank you. It's great to be back and see you again.
And yeah, nice to see you. And also, I wanted to mention that it was nice to actually meet you in person in Pasadena a while back there.
Yeah, yeah. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah,
I think that's when I realized that you were Derek's brother, Derek, who has the theater in Orinda that I'm going to. Mm-hmm. But I think I didn't realize that until I saw you in Pasadena, and everything came together.
Yeah, it was fun to meet you, and it's like now you're here for another time to talk, and that's great. But now, Love Letters, you've done it once, or I'm sure you did it many times before, but you've done it once at the Orinda Theater with Joyce DeWitt.
Joyce DeWitt.
This time, it's sort of like a Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries reunion here. You've got Pamela Sue Martin joining you.
It is. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with Pam a couple of times, and we're good friends, and we have been all these years. And I had a blast. I really had a blast doing it last year. I love this play. I love doing it. I love the experience of it. I like how animated it is. It's funny and moving and really personal to me because I grew up in the world that the play's about. And it was a blast doing it last year with Joyce. Yeah. But I've always been haunted by the fact that Pamela, who grew up in Westport, Connecticut, and is from the same kind of area I'm from, I've always been haunted to do this with her. She just is that kind of preppy, hippie girl that I grew up knowing. People, all my friends were like that, and at boarding schools. And I talked to her after I'd done it last year and thought I wish I could get Pamela to do it. And she spends a lot of time down in Mexico, so it's hard to get her to come up. But I sent her the play and she flipped. She loved it. And so she's going to come do it.
You mentioned that, you've known each other for a long time. I mean, that was back in the late 70s that you were doing the Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys and things. But you guys actually performed in a movie earlier, right? Am I correct in
Exactly.
that?
Exactly.
Our Time, I think it was called.
Our Time. It's a Warner Brothers picture. And trying to peg when I did it. It was halfway through college for me. I took a year off to go do it. And it's about two young teenage couples. And Pamela and I were a couple in that. And it's a really sweet story.
Hmm.
And that was my second film. And I think it was her second film also. Uh, and we became really good friends. And from then on, when I would come back and forth to California for meetings and stuff, I'd often stay with her wherever she was staying, where she was living or whatever the setup was. And we just became really good friends. And for those same reasons, we grew up in this very similar towns right near each other, and we just had a lot in common.
Now, doing the Love Letters play, uh, the two of you, whoever, the guy and the girl who are doing
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
never really are connecting, correct, during the whole play. But does it make any difference when you're doing a play like that, who you're doing it with? I mean, like you say, there's no connection other than the story, which is a very, you know,
Yeah,
emotional.
we're not allowed to look at each other.
Mhm.
Is the stage direction from the author. And so uh, it's almost a recollection of all of their experiences through their life from when they were kids. Kindergarten on. These two have known each other and been sort of involved in different ways their whole lives, and been kind of reference points for each other. Uh, so no, we don't look at each other, but there be two things going on. One is that hearing someone uh, from the past speaking, through letters, uh, it's almost like you're hearing it for the first time, even because maybe you read the letters 40 years ago. So that's almost a new letter, but it's providing a window into that time frame. So the reactions are very genuine. I mean, what's lovely about this play is every time you do it, it's a little different, and who you do it with makes it a little different. So uh, how you respond then when you read your letter back to them uh, is affected by what they just said. So that it's going back and forth all through the play. What the other person is communicating or feeling, you pick up on, and then that affects how you respond. And in this case, because I have such a long history with Pamela, and we know each other so well, uh, it just adds a whole nother level of these connections and responses. And Pamela cracks me up. She always has. She's hysterical and funny and crazy and out there and delightful and open-hearted. I mean, she and having known that through all our adult lives together, that just brings a whole nother level of connection and reaction to the play. So I'm really looking forward to doing it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be fun. And like I say, especially when the two of you know each other like that.
I know.
It
I
should
know.
be. Yeah. Now, in the movie that you had done, Our Time, was that both of the first time the two of you met, or did you know each other previously?
That was the first time we met
Ah,
on that film.
yeah, yeah.
And it was like a 2 month shoot. So again, you get to know someone pretty well. But we were kids. Uh, I think something wonderful with Pamela is I always kind of knew that Pamela and I would not be a good match in any kind of real romantic scenario. Just wasn't a good idea. Just wasn't going to go well. But what that meant was that we've been really close friends all these years for 50 plus years.
Hmm.
Uh, I adore her, but it's always been just a really great close friendship. It's never veered into anything more complicated, which I think is why we've been able to have this relationship all this time.
When you were on the Hardy Boys and she was on the Nancy Drew, did you? I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time, and I used to watch the show, but she was actually on your show sometimes, right? On the Hardy Boys version.
Originally she had her own show,
Hmm.
There were two shows, and they alternated.
Right. Yeah.
And then after a while, I think what happened is Sean started to sing, and when Sean started to sing and went out on the road, and the T-shirts, the posters, the lunchboxes, everything blew up. And so the focus started to shift to the Hardy Boys, and I think ultimately then Nancy Drew got canceled, and they brought her into our show, thinking, well, that'd be great, but she didn't want to be on our show. She didn't want to be a third wheel on our show. I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Um, and she did a couple of crossover shows where she would, be in a show. Um,
I thought so. I thought that she had been on.
yeah, she did. She overlapped, but it didn't last, and she wasn't comfortable, and she left, and then she went on and did, Dynasty. So
Yeah, that was a good one.
she just did fine. She did
Yeah.
just fine.
She wasn't hurting, that's for sure.
No, she did fine.
Now you mentioned all the Sean singing and all that, and the Tiger beat and Teen beat and whatever else that was there, all those songs. How was it for you? I mean, you were in some of those magazines too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did
I
it
was in the
change your
magazines
life?
too. It did. In two ways. The first thing was once the show really got successful. Um, I remember going to see the King Tut exhibit at the LA County Museum here
Mhm.
in Los Angeles. And there was a plexiglass box that held the gold mask that was over the King Tut mummy. And I was looking through this plexiglass box at the mask and realized that the people on the other side of the box were looking and pointing at me. And they weren't coming around to see the mask; they were looking and pointing at me. And I realized, uh, things are different now. And for a couple of years, for probably 4 or 5 years especially, it really changed my ability to just be. I mean, I'm a New Yorker, and I spent a decade in New York City, just walking the city, going to auditions, and sitting in the park, and part of that the experience of being in New York is people watching. It's really being able to enjoy people and what you're seeing, but then that suddenly wasn't available for a while.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that did change things. The other thing was that it brought me more work, and that changed things for me too, because
Yeah.
I wasn't really even particularly wanted to be an actor. I was an architecture student, and then I was in business school when I got the Hardy Boys, and I always expected to go back, and then suddenly I wasn't going back because I had work. So it did change everything. It changed the whole direction of what my life has been.
Yeah. And no offense, Parker, but King Tut's mask, I mean, that's thousands of years old, and I'm surprised they weren't looking at that. But yeah,
Yeah,
a
no,
star is standing in front of you.
and I think I said something. I think he said, no, you should be looking at this.
Hi, this is Lee Majors, and you're listening to On Screen and Beyond.
You ever been to Egypt and seen the pyramids themselves?
I have not. The only time I've kind of touched land in Egypt was I was on a Love Boat episode that actually
Mhm.
was a cruise, and we anchored in, I think I was going to say Haifa, but I don't think it's Haifa. That's in Israel. But we touched down, and they anchored in Egypt, and everyone in the show went off to see the pyramids, but I didn't get to go off because they had me slated to film that day.
Oh, geez.
So so I was one of two performers that had to stay on the ship while everybody went and saw the pyramids.
So
Eva,
close.
Eva Marie Saint was the other person. So she and I sat there and did our scenes for the day, and I got to ask her questions, about on the waterfront with Brando and the white glove thing and all those stories, and that actually was a great day for me.
Boy, that
But I
must have
didn't
been,
get to see the pyramids or the Sphinx.
yeah, but that must have been, amazing hearing her tell those stories.
It was amazing. It was amazing because if we hadn't been sort of segregated like that for that one day, I wouldn't have been forward enough to ask her those questions. But because we had all day to just sit around, she was very relaxed and very open, and I got to really talk to her. It was really nice.
Yeah, that's great. You did several Love Boats, correct?
I did two cruises.
Yeah. That's rough, huh?
The cruises were really fun.
Yeah, because I had quite a few years ago. I had Gavin.
Oh yeah, Gavin McLeod.
McLeod.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was on the show, and he
yeah,
was telling me how it was such a great show to be on because you actually went to all these places and had these amazing actors and actresses from some from way back, but they were legends, and he said it
yeah,
was just amazing to have
yeah. It's really,
that
really fun.
job.
Aaron Spelling was really talented about putting those shows together.
Now, another movie that I'm trying not to talk about the things we talked about the last time. So,
I will remember that we talked about him. So go
yeah.
ahead and ask me. Well, anyway,
But one of the movies that I know you were in back in '83 was Stroker Ace. And there was, I was looking at it and the cast in that, there was Burt Reynolds, of course, Lonnie Anderson, Ned Beatty, Jim Nabors, you, John Biner, Bubba Smith.
right,
I mean,
right.
that was an incredible cast.
It was hysterical. It really was fun. Um, and with Hal Needham directing it, so you got Hal and Bert,
Hell,
and
yeah.
they're best friends and troublemakers, and all these guys that were stock car drivers. Kyle Petty and all those guys were in the movie and hanging out, and it was a and and Hal liked to stop. He really wanted to be done every day by 5. We're done. 5 o'clock come, we're done.
Wow.
So it just was really a fun shoot, and we were at all these racetracks around the South. Uh, and again, I got to ask questions of people and sit around with people. Whether it was Ned or Bubba Smith told me one memory he had of when he was playing, I guess, with Dallas, and he'd gone out partying the night before, and they really, had a wild night, and he was sitting there, you know, healing the next day and watching a ball game, and suddenly realized that was his team playing, and he wasn't there. he, he'd slept through the flight to get down to
Wow.
the next city for the game.
Huh. Did you get to talk to Jim Nabors? I mean, Gomer Pyle. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I talked to Jim a lot. We had one when we went from Atlanta up to I think it was up to North Carolina to the racetrack there. We kept jumping racetracks, and he was driving Bert's the old Trans Am that Bert had,
yeah, oh yeah.
and so I hopped in and I rode with him a couple hours when we went up there, and we just told stories and again stories. There's so many. The experiences are always really similar, but the details are different. But when you've been working a while, a lot of what you're talking about and sharing are things you just have in common.
Hmm.
Yeah, Jim was fun.
Did you get to drive in the movie? Actually drive, or do we see
I
see
I
you and then
did.
it's a stuntman?
I did, but yeah, but then it was also a stuntman because I was driving and I was already racing then, but it still is different. You drive Talladega in a stock car and you're flat out. You're really flying. I wasn't up to that. But they'd have us out in the track at 120, 130 with Cameron cars following us around, but that's slow on a track like that. I mean, it's so slow that the banked, each turn is banked, these steep banks you can barely walk up if you walk the track. Well, the cars are barely staying up because you're not really going fast enough for centrifugal force to hold the car.
Wow.
So I did, I did the easy stuff.
Yeah. Now, working for Hal Needham, who was a stuntman,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he's got to be a little crazy. I mean, when he was doing that, I mean, stunt work is really something. And was it? Did he ask you guys to do anything that maybe you shouldn't have done? Yeah.
He really didn't. There was one thing that I was nervous about, which is I was on a hotel cart, like the housekeeping would have. And it was a scene about racing, through the halls of the hotel on these kind of service carts. And
Mhm.
I was sitting up on one of them, and so, I don't know who was pushing me, Kyle Petty or somebody. And then I go through I go through some ramp and up and end up in the swimming pool. Uh, and I don't know why I did that. I mean, I had no reason to do it. I could have just been sitting in my nice, comfortable, canvas chair watching it happen. But they had me on the cart and they sent me off flying into the air into the swimming pool. And But see, Hal wouldn't think anything of it. I mean,
Right.
Hal would be like, "Yeah, of course we can. Yeah, just get on there, we'll do it."
Yeah.
And I
Come
went,
on,
"Okay,
Parker. Go out there.
okay."
Jeez. Uh,
Uh,
Now, Baywatch. How was your experience on Baywatch?
my experience was, without exception, enjoyable. And here's why. Let's say even if you went work late the night before, and you got to get up at 5 because you got to get in the car and you got to get to location and all that stuff. And uh, even if you're burned out and you've been doing this for months and months and months, as you take the Santa Monica Freeway and punch through the tunnel, which puts you right onto Pacific Coast Highway, right when the sun's coming up, and you pop through that tunnel, and then the lights hitting the water, and the Pacific is right there, and you see the waves breaking, and you suddenly go, "Oh, this is a good job." So no matter how tired you were, or exhausted you were, or cold you were, just getting to the ocean every day was is incredible. I mean, I'm happiest by the water. That's just where I've always been most comfortable.
Was there a
And
lot of downtime?
what's that?
Was there a lot of downtime with it that you got to sit around, or were you
Yeah,
constantly
there's
going?
always downtime on almost everything. There's downtime, especially with a bigger cast.
Mhm.
It's rare that you're in like every scene and then you're working all the time. Uh, but so, I mean, and it was fun. I mean, Hasselhoff is a good friend, and I got to be good friends with Billy Warlock and David Chokachi and a lot of the other people in the show. Um, I learned to surf because I'd get my lunch, go sit down to have my lunch and realize no one was around. And eventually it took me a couple of days to realize they were all out in the waves. They were all out surfing for lunch and they get food later. And so I started, going out to actually surf, and the lifeguards there helped me learn. And so was it work? Yeah, but really enjoyable work and fun work. David's a blast to work with. Similar sense of humor, and I left the show after it got canceled on NBC, and then Hasselhoff talked me into coming back.
Hmm. Yeah, I tried surfing one time when I was in Hawaii, and I was lucky if I could even stand on the stupid thing.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I was doing the Hardy Boys, Glenn Larson, the producer, loved to go to Hawaii, so he'd always find excuses to go to Hawaii. And they had a sequence where I'm supposed to be surfing, and they had stock footage of a guy on the pipeline on a little tiny short, board, and they sent me out at Pipeline with a guy named Fred Hemmings who had been a world champion, to kind of coax me through it. And for the life of me, I couldn't. I'd get up and I'd fall. I'd get up and I'd fall. And I got so exhausted out there that finally they brought me in and they had me stand in the sand right where the way the water was just hitting the sand right there. And they shot it really tight so that the water would splash up when the waves came in. And I put my hands out like I was surfing. And all the real surfers were standing around me just going, "Oh, what a loser."
Yeah, the magic of Hollywood, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The magic of film.
Yeah, wow.
Hi, this is Gary Berghoff on Screen and Beyond, and I guess I'm pretty beyond.
Well, Barker, there's so many other things. It's as far as all the different stuff you've done. Is there, and I mean, we've talked about a couple of things here, but is there anything as closest to your heart that you've done? Maybe not one of the ones that was more famous or anything, but anything that was
Right.
special to you?
Well, in a funny way, and I'm not saying this because of the timing of this conversation. I'm saying it because it really surprised me that when the first time I did love letters was when I was married before, and I did that in Maine, in a place that I just moved to, and I really did it as a way to try to just introduce myself to the people that I was going to be my neighbors. Um, and I knew just because of my background and my history and my parents' family history that it would work well there, and it did. But I just did it that one time, and then I hadn't done it for 30 years. And when I did it with Joyce last year, uh, the material brought back so many memories for me, and memories of things that actually I've spent most of my adult life trying to get away from. I went, I basically went as far from the East Coast and conservative, preppy, social register kind of world as I could until I ran out of land. It was Hawaii or Japan. I couldn't go anymore, so I stopped here. But I really, really was trying to create a different life for myself. And doing the play last year reminded me of so much of my childhood, my youth, and some wonderful things about it. And it really surprised me. And then after I did it, I went and read all of A. Gurney's plays because I was looking for another of his plays that might allow me to reconnect with all that, get a better sense of what my life has been and what it became. So in a funny way, this very simple, sweet show, which is delightful. It's really funny and it's really touching, and people are crying at the end because it really connects with everybody. But it really connected with me. So that's why I'm doing it again with Pamela. And I wanted to do it with Pamela because of her common history
Yeah.
as a child. So that really I'm doing it for personal reasons.
Yeah.
The other thing that touched me as a project, which I didn't expect, was when I did North and South. I didn't know that at my grandparents' house outside of Philadelphia, this portrait that hung in their big staircase going down. It wasn't a big portrait, but it was a really scary portrait. I know there's some ancestor, some great grandfather, some great great grandfather, really scary portrait.
They
And
never
during
smiled. They always just had this face.
Stern, I know. And this was a painting, not a photograph. In a photograph, you had to be still because it would blur, right, if you move. But I found out while I was doing North and South, which is a 6 month shoot, that guy, that portrait was in my grandparents' hallway, was uh, George Gordon Meade, the Union commander at Gettysburg. And he was my great great grandfather. And I didn't know I had a connection, a direct familial connection to Gettysburg or to the Civil War and to that battle. And that suddenly took what was in some ways a really soap opera light, wonderful, romantic kind of, set piece. It shifted it a lot for me.
Hmm.
And when we were, doing battle sequences, it was eerie to think, oh, I mean, my family were here.
Right.
My family members died here. This is so in the midst of all the romance and the music and the beautiful photography and the girls in the gorgeous dresses and everyone standing around in their beautiful uniforms, it was this kind of undercurrent
Hmm.
that related to that portrait that I saw every day I went and saw my grandparents.
It scared the crap out of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's really
So
something.
it's funny how I guess if you get to do work in different arenas and different kinds of material, how your life will intersect at some point, and that's always where the best work is. I mean, that's always where it's the most interesting, and you're the most passionate, and hopefully it communicates better for an audience watching it.
Saturday, March 7th. People
Yeah,
definitely should be, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, hop the BART and head over there and get a ticket now because I'm sure they're going fast.
yeah, it's really a magical show. It's really a great experience. Great
Sounds like it's
experience.
going to be fun. But Parker, we want to finish up with my final question.
Yeah,
And I know I've asked you last year, but I'll ask you again because
yeah.
it may be something new. But when you sit back and relax, what are your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what's your favorite movies? What do you enjoy watching?
I really love Slow Horses. That's like my favorite show.
Really? Yeah.
Have you seen it? Gary
Yeah.
Oldman.
I haven't
Oh,
started that one yet.
you have not started?
Not yet.
Okay, so
I've got it on my
slow
list.
slow horses. They're 2 seasons up. Um, it's really really good. It's funny and dramatic and exciting, and that's probably been my favorite show. And Train Dreams I really liked. It's a film. It's up for Academy Awards. His performance is up for Academy Award. So now, so that one was really touching. So yeah.
What about TV when you were a kid? What were you watching when you were growing up?
Oh, I was watching Gunsmoke,
Everybody was.
which as a kid I got to do one episode of,
Wow.
and I thought I was going to get to do what I did in my backyard and run around play cowboys and Indians, but instead they dressed me up as a kind of a a fancy teenager coming from Boston, getting off the stagecoach in a ridiculous outfit and a top hat. But I did get to work with with Miss Kitty, and Marshall Dillon, and Festus, and all those guys.
Yeah.
But I watched that, and I watched. My dad loved The Honeymooners. He loved McHale's Navy, and so it was kind of a ritual to those comedies, to sit with him while he laughed.
Well, Parker, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share with us. And the people don't know everything we went through to get this to work. But the old saying, the show must go on.
Yeah. No, we got it. It's good. I'm glad we got the Zoom to work. It's perfect.
So I thank you for doing this, Parker.
My pleasure, Brian. I'm a big fan of your brothers and a fan of you. Great show. Thanks much. Good to see you again.
As always, it's great to have Parker here with us on the show. Great guy. And remember, Parker will be at the Orinda Theater in Orinda, California on March 7th, performing the play Love Letters alongside Pamela Sue Martin. You don't want to miss that if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you for watching or listening, and I hope you'll be joining us next week and each week as we bring you an amazing guest from the movie, TV, or music industry. That's a wrap for this episode. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.